greetings to the national officials of Umkhonto Wesizwe Party, and greetings to the membership of Umkhonto Wesizwe Party, and greetings to the people of South Africa and of the African continent and all the progressive forces in the African diaspora and the entire world. So we're going to read a statement which is basically the outcomes of the National High Command meeting of Umkhonto Wesizwe Party. So the electronic version of that statement will be circulated to all members of the media, and will also circulate another document that is relevant for the purposes of this statement. So Umkhonto Wesizwe Party held its National High Command meeting on the 25th to the 27th of September 2024 in Johannesburg, Gauteng Province. The National High Command is the highest decision-making body in Umkhonto Wesizwe Party. The meeting was opened and addressed by Umkhonto Wesizwe Commander General and President Jacob Zuma, who provided sound, instructive, and clear political, ideological, and organizational guidance to the members of the National High Command and the entire organization. President Zuma presented a clear roadmap towards total liberation and emancipation of the people of South Africa. The meeting of the National High Command was a resounding success in that we adopted the following important and critical documents in the life of the organization. The National High Command adopted the Constitution, which will be published from today in the website of Umkhonto Wesizwe Party, and it sets clear aims and objectives, values and principles, and establishes all the leadership structures of the organization. We will give key highlights of the Constitution in this statement and read out some of the critical components of the Constitution: the preamble, the aims and objectives, the section on membership, the section on duties and obligations of members, and of course we'll then speak to what are the integral parts and organizations that form the Umkhonto Wesizwe Party. The Constitution of Umkhonto Wesizwe Party also includes the Code of Disciplinary Conduct and the minimum standards and code of conduct for all public representatives. The meeting of the National High Command also adopted a framework on the absorption of policy and research staff members, and a broad framework on how policies of Umkhonto Wesizwe will be organically generated towards a policy conference. The policy development process is grounded on the people's mandate and the adopted Constitution of Umkhonto Wesizwe. The key emphasis is that our policies are aimed at total liberation and freedom for our people. The policies of Umkhonto Wesizwe seek to realize the broad-based and total liberation of our people from political, economic, social, spatial, cultural, and knowledge or ideological apartheid and all other forms of oppression and exclusion. The National High Command also deployed the national officials and members of the National High Command to provinces, but also constituted committees that are going to support the High Command in fulfilling its responsibilities and obligations. In terms of the deployments to provinces, the Commander General and President is deployed to the province of KwaZulu-Natal. The Deputy President, Dr. John Fope, is deployed to the province of the Western Cape. The Secretary General, Dr. Sfiso Maseko, is deployed to the provinces of the Free State and the Northern Cape. The Deputy Secretary General, Nombuso Mkhize, is deployed to Mpumalanga Province. The National Organizer is deployed to Gauteng Province. The National Chairperson, Nkosinathi Hleko, is deployed to the Northwest Province. The National Deputy Chairperson, Wilson Mukocho Sibilwane, is deployed to the province of the Eastern Cape. The Treasurer General, Menzima Gubane, is deployed to the province of Limpopo. All other members of the National High Command are deployed to different provinces to do work of the organization. And the Secretary General has communicated to all the lower structures on who is deployed to their province and what will be expected from them. We direct that all structures of the organization at all levels must give maximum respect to the National High Command deployees, because we are assured that the national leaders will give maximum respect to all the lower structures. The President and national officials will appoint additional members to the National High Command to guarantee gender parity, geographic spread, and generational mix principles in the collective, which in the National High Command will not exceed 45 additional members. The President will over the next few weeks, start the process of appointing and announcing the provincial conveners and coordinators who will be leaders of provinces on behalf of the organization. And the national officials and the National High Command will also appoint the provincial, regional, and sub-regional detachments. The National High Command also constituted the following committees: the National Disciplinary Committee, the Communications Committee, the Safety and Security Committee, the Economic Transformation Committee, the Social Transformation Committee, the International Relations Committee, and the Governance Committee, and also the Finance Committee. The National Disciplinary Committee is going to be presided by Dr. John Thorpe, the Deputy President of the organization. It will also include Dr. Jacob Zuma, General Nompumelelo Desi Chilwano, Bongani Baloyi, Dynamo Tawa, and then 5 external members who are not members of the National High Command, but are members of Umkhonto weSizwe Party. The constitution of Umkhonto weSizwe Party, which is going to be released and published today, instructs and empowers the national officials to appoint a national prosecutor who will be responsible for internal prosecutions on behalf of the organization. The meeting of the national officials that took place on the 8th of October 2024 in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal, resolved to appoint Prince Kitsing Mokotedi as the national prosecutor, and is empowered as per the Code of Conduct to recommend an appointment of 7 other members who are going to assist in the internal disciplinary matters. The National Disciplinary Committee of Appeals of Umkhonto weSizwe will be the top 8 officials minus the Deputy President and the Secretary General, because they get involved in the prosecutorial and the adjudication process of internal discipline. The Communications Committee of Umkhonto weSizwe Party is chaired and convened by Dr. Tati Mtanti and constituted of Commander Mweti Bila, Gobizizwe Makhanya, Mabato Mokauze, Nolitando Shozi, Lungele Makunguzu, and Tlamulo Ndlela. The Safety and Security Committee is convened and chaired by the National Chairperson, Nkosinathi Hleko. It's comprised of Sibusiso Kulu, Julius Nsingwane, Sindim Tembu, Fanuel Manana, Ndumiso Matlala, and Dynamo Tawa. The Economic Transformation Committee is convened by the national organizer and is comprised of Commanders Richard Sileke, Brian Mulife, Siyabonga Gama, Lucky Montana, Mweti Bila, Adil Nchabeleng, and Tshepo Mahlala. The Social Transformation Subcommittee is convened by the Secretary General, Dr. Sfiso Masego. It is comprised also of Jabulani Zimande, Papi Tau, Mandla Sidu, Ndiboniswani Tijumba, Muzi Ntingila, Pingi Vilagaza. The International Relations Committee is chaired by the head of presidency, Makasela Mzobe. It's comprised also of Kate Mabizela, Dr. Skumbuzo Kize, Duduzile Zuma, Andile Tam, Wesley Douglas. The Governance Committee of Umkhonto Wesizwe Party is convened by the party leader in Parliament, Deputy President, Dr. John Hlophe. It's comprised also of Irene Kluvile Namakuli, Mabato Mukause, Mzwanele Manyi, Leon Mbajwa, Bongani Baloi, Dibulwani Ligege, and Abraham Moye. The Finance Committee is convened and chaired by the Treasurer General, Menzima Gubani. It's comprised of Sibusiso Tulu, Noluthando Shozi, Nomusa Mpotjane, Richard Sileke, and then Prince Mukotedi. The offices of the Umkhonto Wesizwe Party, the national officials and the secretariat are in the process of finalizing the physical offices of the organization and will establish the office before the end of November 2024. The head office of Umkhonto Wesizwe Party will have 2 wings, one in Johannesburg in Gauteng province and one in Durban in KwaZulu-Natal province. We'll also establish offices in all the 9 provinces and all the 54 regions of South Africa to increase, harness and enhance the accessibility of our organization to ordinary members. The membership forms of the organization are accessible from our website, and anyone who wants to join can make the application via the website. And all the data that is going to be provided will be protected and not published publicly. That the MKP public representatives, which are the members of provincial legislatures and members of parliament, will be establishing constituency offices in all corners of South Africa, so as to make sure that they are accessible and represent our people effectively and efficiently. We're an organization of the people and will always be on the ground with the people. The National High Command takes note that there are several parallel structures and leadership formations at all levels of the organization. Such will come to an absolute end once the leadership has been announced at all levels. We will not tolerate insubordination and mutiny, and will isolate elements that seek to destabilize our movement. We call on all members of Umkhonto Wesizwe Party who join first to avoid and stay away from the demons of gatekeeping and factionalism. There will be several members and leaders who will join Umkhonto Wesizwe Party and will be assigned leadership responsibilities at all levels. Those who joined first should welcome new members and must not close the gate and feel entitled to leadership responsibilities. We are still at formative stages, and we should welcome and embrace all people who join Umkhonto Wesizwe Party. We command all structures to abide by the decisions of upper structures at any given moment. We are a unitary organization guided, amongst other things, by the principle of democratic centralism. Now, we did say at the beginning that we are going to take members of the media and the membership of Umkhonto Wesizwe through the critical components of the constitution of Umkhonto Wesizwe Party. Can I take off my cap so that we're able to read that clearly? Now, we're going to circulate the hard copies for those of you who are here, but also will circulate the electronic version. So I'm going to go briefly now through the preamble of the constitution of Umkhonto Wesizwe Party. It reads as follows: that we, the indigenous people of the African continent, and all people of African ancestry all over the world share the common scars of slavery, colonization, and colonialism, which dispossessed us of our land, natural and economic resources, dignity, heritage, culture, languages, and identity. Since the beginning of slavery and colonialism, all people of African ancestry continue to be on the margins of mainstream economic and social participation and relevance. In South Africa, the black majority and indigenous people were subjected to centuries of colonialism and apartheid, which was manifested through a symbiotic combination of political, economic, social, spatial,
cultural and knowledge or ideological apartheid and oppression. The symbiotic and mutual reincarnation of these forms of apartheid and oppression constitute the core of why the black majority and indigenous people have and continue to be subjected to colonialism and apartheid, oppression and exclusion. The period and era of the struggle against colonialism and apartheid have revealed that at the center of the liberation struggle has to be the aim for total liberation and freedom from oppression and exploitation. The struggle against apartheid and colonialism is not linear and always encounters setbacks and counter-revolutionary moments and episodes which must be resisted and combated through revolutionary vigilance, fortitude, and resilience. Political apartheid and oppression happened through the conquest, subjugation, oppression, and exclusion of black and indigenous people in the political life of South Africa, where the oppressed were not allowed to vote and be voted for. Economic apartheid and oppression happened through white minority capitalist oppression, where racism was used as an instrument of capitalist super exploitation. And this constituted the backbone of colonialism and apartheid. Social apartheid and oppression happened through systematic and systemic racism, which positioned black people as an inferior race, not permitted to gain the same privileges as white people, or permitted to express their full cultural and traditional identity and existence as a people. Spatial apartheid and oppression happened through land dispossession and the relegation of the black majority into less qualitative and the least productive land and spaces of South Africa's surface. Cultural apartheid and oppression happened through the distortion, demarcation, and attempted obliteration of black people's cultural systems, including systems of traditional leadership, medicines, and custom, as well as undermining of indigenous languages, norms, and value systems such as Ubuntu and collectivism. Ideological or knowledge apartheid and oppression happened through the degradation of African knowledge systems, religions, and the imposition of colonial-based education system. While overt political apartheid was ended through the first inclusive elections in 1994 in South Africa, there still exist very strong and visible components of economic, social, spatial, and ideological knowledge apartheid and oppression. The system of colonialism and apartheid did not end in 1994, but took a different form and shape. Attempts to reverse the total impact and consequences of apartheid continue to be suppressed, bastardized, and criminalized by the white racists in partnership with black collaborators, all under the direct support of the imperialist and racist global order and its sponsored media. As with the leaflet announcing the formation of Umkhonto weSizwe in December 16, 1961, after the banning and legalization of the liberation movements by the white minority racist apartheid regime, the announcement statement made by President Jacob Zuma on the 16th of December 2023 signaled our refusal to surrender to the struggle against neocolonialism apartheid. The statement of President Zuma on the 16th of December 2023 signals our refusal to surrender in the struggle against neocolonialism and apartheid. South Africa is currently still under neocolonial and apartheid rule, which excludes the black majority and indigenous people from any meaningful economic participation and benefit. South Africa is still defined by strong and continued presence of economic, social, spatial, cultural, and knowledge ideological apartheid and oppression. The statement of President Jacob Zuma on the 16th of December 2023 represents a clarion call that the struggle continues, and the current phase of struggle requires unity in action of all the oppressed masses of our people. The statement of President Zuma on the 16th of December 2023 is a call to action that will still lead to fight for true and real freedom and emancipation. Above all, the statement of President Zuma is a cry for the unity of the progressive forces which represents the oppressed. The statement represents the foundational contemporaryism why Umkhonto weSizwe party exists, Every cadre of Umkhonto we must read and internalize it. It must be conceptualized as a living document in analyzing the current conjuncture and facing the struggle and fight for radical economic transformation and economic freedom. Umkhonto we party exists to realize the broad-based and total liberation of our people from political, economic, social, spatial, cultural, and knowledge or ideological apartheid and all other forms of oppression and exclusion. Total freedom, total political freedom means that as a people of South Africa and the African continent, we must be able to establish our own political institutions and take our own political decisions without supervision from the white former colonizers and the imperialist global West. Total economic freedom and emancipation means that the people of South Africa and Africa should be able to own, control, and meaningfully benefit from the economic resources systems and determine our destiny without neo-colonial and neo-apartheid interference and racist supervision. Total social freedom means that all forms of racism must come to an end and there must be a full integration of all the people who live and stay in South Africa. Total spatial freedom means that the whole of South Africa must be fully integrated and land must be shared equitably amongst the people of South Africa. There must be little distinction between urban and rural, and there must be no distinction between townships and affluent suburbs. Total cultural freedom means that whilst embracing the values of a democratic society, we should aggressively reassert our indigenous cultural heritage and systems. Total knowledge and ideological freedom means that we should regain full control of our knowledge systems in all forms of organized knowledge and decolonize educational systems and finance. Decolonization must lie at the ideological center of the new struggle for the total liberation of our country, the continent, and the world. The white colonial settlers defeated and subjugated the black majority in Africans in South Africa because the resistance and struggle against colonialism was fought by small groups of indigenous leaders and clans. In their journey of colonial conquest and subjugation, the white colonial settlers never encountered black people as a unified opposition against colonialism. With the liberation movement attempted to unite the forces of resistance from 1912 onwards, the period we are in has stratified and continues to divide black political resistance to neo-colonialism. Umkhonto as a party is therefore a political movement that seeks to unite all the anti-colonial, anti-apartheid, and anti-imperialist progressive forces to continue and to complete the unfinished fight for total liberation and freedom. Umkhonto as a party believes that now is the time that we unite all the progressive forces, particularly those who are not projects of and instruments of continued white domination and oppression. Umkhonto as a party unites the ideological strengths of freedom fighters who associate the wars of resistance against colonialism and apartheid, a radical and militant interpretation and application of the Freedom Charter, Pan-Africanism, Black consciousness, and similar philosophies. We believe that the phase of the revolution we are currently in calls for total unity and unification of the progressive forces. Umkhonto as a party stands totally and fundamentally opposed to collaboration with colonial, neo-colonial forces and their descendants who still uphold and defend colonial intentions and aspirations. We acknowledge that the democratic breakthrough relegated African customs, traditions, and systems of governance, whilst other democratic, socialist, and progressive programs all over the world embrace democracy, socialism, and progressive change, aimed at retaining and protecting their cultural heritage, customs, traditions, and recognition of traditional leadership. Umkhonto as a party is a total liberation progressive movement fighting for total political, economic, social, spatial, cultural, and knowledge or ideological freedom and emancipation. The core value of our struggle is the unity of all the progressive forces and demonstrable moral excellence and capacity of those who will be deployed to play different roles in the state and other institutions. Umkhonto as a party is opposed to colonialism, neo-colonialism, neoliberalism, racism, sexism, and all unjust laws, systems and practices that seek to demonize black people and Africans in South Africa and the entire world. Umkhonto weSizwe Party is founded on the fundamental philosophy that the greatest weapon in the hands of the oppressed is their unity in action. Umkhonto weSizwe Party is a revolutionary political movement that is founded on the principles of progressive internationalism, Pan-Africanism, anti-colonialism, anti-racism, and the commitment to redress the legacy of apartheid and colonialism. The MKP is an organic movement that is fighting for the total emancipation of the people of South Africa and the entire African continent, and respects the role of African traditional and royal nation. Part of the immediate programs is the attainment of the aspirations of the Freedom Charter and of Umkhonto weSizwe Party's People's Mandate, and the transfer of the ownership of the land and natural resources into the hands of the people as a whole. Umkhonto weSizwe Party draws direct inspiration from the 1961 generation of Umkhonto weSizwe, which said, "We are working in the best interest of the people of this country, black, brown, and white, whose future happiness and well-being cannot be attained without the overthrow of the nationalist government, the abolition of white supremacy, and the winning of liberty, democracy, and full national rights, and equality for all the people of this country. We appeal for the support and encouragement of all those South Africans who seek the happiness and freedom of the people of this country, Africa, my people. To this extent, to the extent that today the nationalist government has been replaced by the same racist and exploitative forces and their black collaborators, there is no big difference between the situation in 1969 and the present conjuncture. In the words of President Zuma, the only major difference is that the bullet must be replaced by the ballot as our primary weapon. The Umkhonto weSizwe Party is a symbol of our refusal to be subdivided and suppressed into small and viable formations that carry no capacity to fight for true and total freedom. Our different formations must never be regarded as ends in themselves. We must develop the ability to differentiate between tactics and strategy. Leaders and organizations will come and go, but the revolution must always remain in place. Although some little progress was made due to partial political freedom since 1994, real and fundamental political, economic, social, cultural, and knowledge, freedom, and emancipation have not been fully realized. The hallmarks of colonialism and apartheid are still intact and demonstrated by landlessness of the majority, no economic power, racism and racial segregation, cultural subjugation, and abolition of the indigenous people, the dominance of external knowledge system and content. We, as Umkhonto weSizwe Party, will unite all the progressive forces to fight for true and total emancipation, for the freedom, for this total freedom. We shall fight side by side throughout our lives until we have won our total liberty and emancipation for all our people. Africa, my goal. So that is the preamble of the constitution of Umkhonto weSizwe Party. And we'll just skip through the objectives of what does the organization seeks to achieve in terms of the constitution. Objective number one is to unite all the anti-colonial, anti-imperialist, and anti-racist progressive forces in South Africa to fight for total political, economic, social, spatial, cultural, and knowledge freedom and emancipation. Number two is to tirelessly fight for the return of all of South African natural and economic resources to the ownership, control, and benefit for all the people as a whole. Number three is to mobilize, educate, agitate,
conscientize the people of South Africa behind the mission and vision for total economic emancipation, radical economic transformation, and economic freedom. Number four is to reclaim all the land and natural resources that were forcefully
and violently taken from indigenous people and redistribute it to the people equitably through the instrumentality of democratic state. Number 5 is to introduce parliamentary sovereignty and power in a manner that will represent the interests and aspirations of the people. Number 6 is to democratically and decisively take over political power in South Africa, which will be used as an instrument for total freedom and emancipation. Number 7 is to take over economic power and pursue economic expansion through purposeful state-led industrialization. Number 6 is to develop and grow the productive forces of the economy in a manner that will guarantee full employment and create conditions for common and full prosperity for all the people of South Africa. Number 9 is to create full employment for all the people who need quality and sustainable jobs. Is to fight, number 10, for the interest, rights and aspirations of all workers, including the rights to unionize, to work in safe and protected workplaces, and the right to earn a living wage. Number 11 is to fight poverty and reduce inequalities in South Africa. Is to fight crime and eliminate all forms of criminality in all spheres and sectors of society as number 12. Number 13 is to assemble the best qualified and most skilled relevant people to provide responsive and responsible government which will benefit all the people of South Africa and maintain mutually beneficial economic, political, and social relationships with people of the African continent and the world. Number 14 is to promote intellectual work amongst black people, which will innovate, invent, and produce new ideas and solutions to the people as a whole, and in a manner that is organically connected to indigenous knowledge systems and appreciation of the progress made in other parts of the world. Number 15 is to fight for and introduce free, quality, and decolonized education for all from elementary school until postgraduate level. Number 16 is to elevate and officially recognize the role of royal, indigenous, and traditional leadership in South Africa's democratic system through giving clearly defined legislative and oversight powers to the National House of Traditional Leaders. Number 17 is to fight, champion, and advocate for the interests and aspirations of professionals, particularly those historically excluded from main participation through apartheid and colonialism. Number 18 is to fight, champion, and for the interests and aspirations of all military veterans and ex-combatants. Number 19 is to defend, promote, and protect all forms of spiritual and religious expressions, freedom, and association. Number 20 is to fight for, promote, and advocate for gender equality in all MKP structures and all spheres of society. Number 21 is to fight all forms and manifestations of gender-based violence and crime against children and people with disabilities. Number 22 is to fight for the cultural and knowledge, ideological relevance and hegemony of all South African cultural and knowledge systems and solutions. Number 23 is to fight for the mainstreaming of sound, traditional, and indigenous healing systems and medicine in a manner that will collaborate with and enhance scientifically proven solutions. Number 24 is to raise the level of political consciousness amongst all people of South Africa and thoroughly engage in the battle of ideas within our country, our continent, and the world. Number 25 is to fight racism wherever it is manifested. Number 26 is to resist any form of collaboration with the racist minority agenda and program. Number 27 is to decolonize South Africa's knowledge systems and laws in a manner that will embrace and uphold decolonized laws and systems against colonial and neo-colonial laws such as the Roman Dutch law and the English law and doctrine which lie at the root of the present so-called common law. Number 28 is to build sound and fair relationships between the people of South Africa and the entire African continent in a manner and direction that seeks to achieve gradual integration towards common prosperity, freedom, and development.
Number 29 is to build sound and fair
relationships between the people of South Africa and the global South in a manner and a direction that seeks to achieve common prosperity and freedom. The last objective is to contribute towards the progressive shift in the global balance of forces by strengthening institutions of the global South like BRICS Plus and all its alliances. Now, in terms of membership of Umkhonto we Party, it's open to all South Africans who are registered to vote and are above the age of 16. And membership is obtained individually through signing of a membership form or through an online application, and therefore an allocation to a branch of Umkhonto we. And membership is open to all South Africans who are opposed to colonialism, white, minority, racist, domination, and collaboration. Members of Umkhonto we Party must wholeheartedly serve the people and be ready to make any personal sacrifice and dedicate their lives to realizing the aims and objectives of the organization. Members of Umkhonto we Party shall forever owe their allegiance to ordinary members of the working people. No member of Umkhonto we shall pursue any self-enrichment, personal gain, or privilege at the expense of the people and the organization. All members of Umkhonto we who join the organization will be placed on a probation period for a period of 24 months after joining, meaning that the membership may be summarily cancelled collectively by the national officials at any point during the probation period. The cancellation of membership will be done against members whom the national officials believe have violated the organizational principles, policies, and principles, or are not aligned to the strategic objectives of the organization. The powers that are envisaged in the cancellation of the membership will always be exercised with the concurrence of the President. That the National High Command has got the right to accept or reject membership of anyone who joins, who seeks to join Umkhonto we. And members of Umkhonto we Party are not allowed to join and participate in political activities whose aims and objectives are opposed to the objectives of Umkhonto we. And save for highly exceptional and strategic circumstances, and with the approval of national officials and the High Command, members of Umkhonto we Party are not allowed to be members of other political parties, except organizations that are in formal alliance with Umkhonto we Party. And membership of Umkhonto we Party will be 20 rand, which will be applicable for 24 months and renewable after 24 months period. And that members who join should pay directly and not be paid for on behalf of the members. And then those who join are going to sign a membership declaration, which is in the Constitution, which amongst other things says that I join Umkhonto we Party with the full knowledge that in the intervening period I will be under probation and my membership can be cancelled if I do not move in accordance to the organization. Then the principles that are contained in the Constitution, which we are not going to read all of them, that anchor the organization. One is principle of Ubuntu Ubuntu. The second principle is the principle of unity in action. The third principle is the principle of Pan-Africanism, patriotism, and equality. The fourth principle is principle of honesty and respect. The fifth principle and value of the organization is democratic centralism. The sixth principle is mandate, accountability, and reporting. The seventh principle is organic forms of public representation. The eighth principle is discipline and hard work. The ninth principle is manageability and meritocracy. The last 10th principle is class consciousness. We will get time to all of us read through all these principles. But just want to pull out one of the key principles that the President had guided firmly on as to what should be the values of all Umkhonto party members. The principle of honesty and respect, that all members of Umkhonto party must be honest at all times and must avoid making commitments on things they cannot fulfill. They must necessarily fulfill all the commitments they make to the people. The guiding principle of all Umkhonto members and public representatives will be what Amilcar Cabral says, that hide nothing from the masses of our people, tell no lies, expose lies whenever they are told, claim no easy victories. And the emphasis is that the respect demands that all members of Umkhonto party must respectfully raise their political views in and outside the organization and must engage even political opponents with robustness, but through respect. No member of Umkhonto party will be allowed to throw insults at anyone, including political opponents, even in instances where they have been insulted or provoked by the opponents. It's one of the principles that is going to guide how the organization is, but that is substantiated in the Constitution. And in terms of the structures and organizational structures of Umkhonto party, we are led by the President, who is the Commander General, and the President of the organization. And then there will be a structure called Royal House, which is comprised of the kings and queens, the recognized kings and queens, which will be an advisory structure which will interface with the organization through the President and Commander General. And then underneath that, we're going to have a council of traditional and religious leaders. A council of traditional, indigenous, and religious leaders who are going to give constant counsel to the organization in terms of what are the key issues. Whenever manifestos and policy positions are adopted, the leadership collective will be obliged to go and give a report to people who lead the recognized constituencies, which are religious leaders and traditional leaders from all corners of South Africa, representing all cultural denominations and expressions in South Africa. And underneath that, we're going to have the national officials, which is the top 8 of President, Deputy President, Secretary General, Deputy Secretary General, National Chairperson, Deputy National Chairperson, Treasurer General, and National Organizer. And then we're going to have the National High Command, which is the highest decision-making body. So it's an equivalent of a National Executive Committee or a Central Command team in other organizations. It's the highest decision-making body, the National High Command, which takes decisions. That is the structure that took the final decision on the Constitution. And out of that, we're then going to have provincial detachments. Provincial detachments will be the ones that are responsible for coordination and work of the organization at provincial level, appointed by the national structures. Underneath that, we're going to have regional detachments. Regional detachments are demarcated as the districts, the 54 districts or metropolitan districts, which are 8 in South Africa currently. So it's 54 regional detachments which are going to be leading the structures. We must highlight that the composition of the provincial detachments will be provincial convener, provincial deputy convener, coordinator, deputy coordinator, organizer, deputy organizer, fundraiser, and deputy fundraiser. That will be the same in terms of regions. Underneath regions will be the sub-regional detachments, which are going to be demarcated as the local municipalities. In terms of the district municipalities, in terms of metropolitan municipalities, it will be as per the zones in that particular metropolitan municipalities. And underneath that will be ward detachments. Underneath ward detachments will be voting districts detachments. The voting district detachments are going to need VD-based branches of the Umkhonto Party. So the branches of Umkhonto are going to be VD based. We are fully aware that in South Africa we have got 23,291 voting districts, and we are going to launch 23,291 branches of Umkhonto, which are going to be constituted at VD level for efficiency and impact of work, because one-based branches, of course, are functional in certain circumstances, but they are not easy to convene in most of the rural areas and communities. So the branches of Umkhonto are going to be VD based. And for purposes of local government elections, all the VDs will gather to then select who will be the candidate and what is the common program for the total victory in terms of elections. In the immediate program, an activity that is going to be happening is that the leadership is going to be appointing the leadership of provinces, of regions, and no one at provincial level has got the power to establish any regional structure. That is the responsibility of the national leadership. And once that leadership has been appointed, there is no one who is going to identify themselves as leaders of Umkhonto in the province, except those that have been appointed in a letter that will have been signed by the Secretary General. So that is the principle that is going to obtain. The fractional organizations that exist within Umkhonto as a party. One is Umkhonto as the Women's League. It is established by the Constitution, which is comprised of all women in Umkhonto above the age of 16 and who are registered to vote, are going to organize and led at the national level by the National Women's Detachment. And then we have provincial structures, regional structures, ward structures, city structures. We're also going to establish the Umkhonto Youth League, which will be joined and led by young people between the ages of 13 years old and 30. So between the ages of 13 and 30 years, that is Umkhonto Youth League. And it organizes at all levels, except in institutions of higher learning. So Umkhonto Youth League will organize young people in communities, except in institutions. The Umkhonto Youth League will not launch campus-based branches. We're then going to have Umkhonto students movement as a separate, relatively autonomous organization, which is going to launch branches of Umkhonto students movement in all TVET colleges, universities of technology, and universities, and will be relatively autonomous to deal with matters that relate to students on a constant basis. And the highlight is that the leadership of Umkhonto students movement must not be above the age of 18. So those who think that they are going to join at the age of 40, wanting to be Umkhonto the student movement, they won't be able to smuggle themselves. It's mostly going to be the young students who are going to be leading themselves in terms of what will be expected. So the Constitution was adopted by the National High Command, and through observation of just the practice of the organization and the evolving time and adaptability of the circumstances and conditions, when there are changes that are going to be made, the National High Command will again meet to say that we need to add the following sections to then deal with those aspects. And the president is the leader of the organization, and he has the powers to determine and convene consultative and policy conferences in instances where he thinks there's something important that will need organic direction from the leadership. He also has the power to decree practices and decisions that go contrary to the main objectives of the organization. Ladies and gentlemen, the people of South Africa, the Constitution of Umkhonto is the party. Thank you very much.
Well, order, an opportunity for questions. We'll take 5 questions, and then the leadership will respond. I'm not answering any questions today. The leadership will. So let's take the first question. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, go ahead, please. The usual name, organization, and obviously the question. Yes, go ahead.
Alright, I'm President I'm Bingelele ubaba Msholozi, Bingelele native alone, na nitathela zonke isikole. Igama lami uSiyabonga, wangubani from North from MK to speak. Inombuzo la, cause okunye sekukhavekile ngesikhathi ngizwa national organizer ngesikhathi iqhubeka ne-constitution. Then ngizocela ukubuza lo umbuzo ukuthi what's the MKP status on visa regulations? Because we had Minister of Home Affairs, his proposition is to attract skilled foreigners to South Africa. Hence, we do have more than overqualified individuals. Or else, why government doesn't train its own people that are relying outside from
Number 2.
Good afternoon, everyone. I had the national organizer speak about the probation of 24 months, correct? The party itself hasn't reached even a year. Does it mean all of you are in probation? Or is it people who are only joining now? So what is the cut-off? So in the other issue, I think is just escapes me now. Okay, I think I'll get back to it. Just forgot it now.
Please go ahead.
Greetings. My name is Sandra Koleva from the Sunday Times. My question is, now that structures have finally been established with internal disciplinary measures and a committee in place, will there be any recourse or special appeal process allowed for aggrieved former members who've been ousted from the party, whether they've been public representatives before? So essentially what I'm trying to find out is former MKP members who are aggrieved about how they were removed from the party, will there be a special process to allow them to appeal their removal or membership? Thank you very much.
Okay. Number 4 at the end.
Morning, yes. Igama ngokonele lodidi. Because we have mentioned that we support our traditional leaders, and our denomination have been struggling with their kingdom for a very long time. And you are aware about the history of South Africa, and Langan Valley, the King of Africa, was one of the first traditional leaders to be arrested in Robben Island. And on the 18th of this month, they have a case in High Court. Is the MK going to support them in their case? The second and last question is, you have mentioned several times that the reason why white people have defeated us was because we're divided as black people. And we've seen MK trying to unite black people in all spheres. And how are we going to maintain that unity? Because there are people who are trying to divide the EMK, especially with other progressive forces. Even yesterday, they were pushing race to the leader of EFF, which he ignored that question because people are trying to create a fight or a division within the two parties, and it's going to go to other black people and black parties also.
That's a long question. Do you remember?
Yes, I remember what I wanted to ask.
Oh, so let's allow you to finish off your.
So for the MK was obviously officially announced by President Zuma on the 16th of December last year. Is there anything planned to perhaps commemorate that day, like it would normally happen? I mean, you come from a tradition of January 8th. Is there anything called December 16th?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm Howard Amawala from UFM. Let me start with the first question, just to amplify on immigration. What is the MK stance, particularly in the context of the country's electoral politics? Certain people are set to enforce rules because they approach these others believe they've gained. And in the previous media briefing, this question was asked, but it was never responded to. So a bit of detail on that one. And also, in the previous media briefing, it was indicated that there's not going to be conferences anytime soon in MK because you will fear infiltration. And now I hear this mention of a policy conference upcoming. Does that also open the way for an elective conference, or that decision stands? And what is the rationale behind the decision of having two headquarters? I'm not even sure how to put it in plural form. An office in Durban, another in Joburg. Is it to make things convenient for the leader of the party? Since he's from Uganda, I'm not sure how far it is from KZN, I just know it's the same. And are you not concerned? Are you not concerned that this may feed into a narrative of MK being a regional party supported largely by Zulu-speaking people? And finally, bear with me, President Derek. There seems to be a lot of emphasis on discipline in the presentation about the Constitution. So, are you able to give us an account of how right is this team of people just being propositions, particularly the establishment of rival structures? Thank you.
Thanks. I think that was the last one. Should we allow me the leadership to respond because it's 5 questions, then I'll take the next round. Maybe President.
Thank you very much for the questions. So the 24-month probation means that everyone else who joins the probation, and everyone, the entire membership, so that the organization is able to, with utmost agility, deal with elements that are joining for wrong purposes. So before we quit, the organization can confirm that you are truly a member. If you misbehave, like you just cancel the membership, so that is going to take you through a disciplinary process. And that is the purpose of having every member on it. Because it happens that for an organization that is being founded in conferences, you will have a lot of entries elements who join for different purposes, for self-enrichment, or for thinking that they are going to be promoted into leadership responsibilities far much quicker. And then in the process they become very disruptive. So that will be dealt with through the option of that the membership can be cancelled if you misbehave. Because there are certain instances which you do not need to take into a long disciplinary process. Like when people go and disrupt meetings and produce firearms in meetings of the organization and threaten the security of our movement. It's those who will be dealt with and there is no one who is going to impose themselves as a member once the membership is cancelled. So that is the organization will always protect itself in terms of what happens. I think there is a separate process. I'm sure the group will possibly reflect on it. There are separate processes on the recognition of traditional leaders and those who claim kingship or are legitimately saying that they're supposed to be recognized as kings. We are not a commission that deals with that as a controversy. And we wouldn't want to enter into that terrain now. But whoever is recognized as a king will recognize them as a king. All traditional leaders who are recognized as traditional leaders will honor them as such. We are not going to recognize kings whom we are not going to create kings. We don't have the powers to appoint kings. President Zuma appointed and recognized a lot of kings and traditional leaders as head of state and president. 3 weeks ago, we were inaugurating the chief of Tokwe in the northwest, but we do not have the powers to inaugurate kings and chiefs. In terms of immigration, Umkhonto does not agree with undocumented and unlawful immigration. We do not associate with it. We think that in the process of pursuing the pan-Africanist, pan-continental integration of the continent, there has to be documentation of everyone so that we know who is who where. So the pan-Africanist commitment is not shifted. We are of the view that the continental infrastructure, the economy, the people, the cultures must be integrated. But we are not for undocumented movements of people because that might threaten the security of each of the constituent parts which are going to pursue the African integration agenda. So so Pan-Africanism does not entail anarchy. Pan-Africanism does not mean that we must just live as if there is no order. There has to be order, there has to be clear guidance as to how to integrate in terms of the economy, in terms of how to benefit collectively as black people in the African continent from our common economic resources and heritage in terms of what happens. The leadership of Umkhonto will speak at a subsequent stage on the programs and activities that are going to be held to mark the first anniversary of Umkhonto party on the 16th of December. So that program of action will be outlined once all the logistical issues have been sorted. But most definitely there will be activity that is going to take place, and then the leadership will announce where such is going to take place, and all members will be informed. And it will not just be one activity in one province. It will be activities in the entirety of South Africa to commemorate the first birthday of the official opposition in Parliament now, and soon to be government.
That was a comprehensive response. DP, you had this. Oh, Somebody tell us? The head office issue, yes.
Thank you very much. I'm going to address two questions. One on the two head offices, which each head office will be in Johannesburg, Gauteng, and the other one will be in KwaZulu-Natal. The rationale behind this is that our work as the National High Command is demanding that we are visible and we have meetings, various meetings in the two provinces. And the two provinces are in the center. For example, the Gauteng region. It is easily accessible by all provinces. When we are to hold a national meeting, it becomes central. Then the KwaZulu-Natal, it is necessary for us to have one in KwaZulu-Natal as well, because so that we will be able to be visible and be able to attend to all other provinces. Then the second question that I want to address is the one that talks to the factionalism, which was asked as to what is it that makes us have more emphasis on discipline. Discipline is one of the key objectives and principles within our constitution. An emphasis of discipline is as a result of what is happening in all communities, and not only happening within the MKP or the Umkhonto we Party. But it is very important that one mentions that we have learned that as a growing organization, moving from being a movement, we are now an organization. We are being established. We are consolidating ourselves as an organization. It will be very necessary of us and essential that people that are within the Umkhonto Wesizwe uphold the values and norms of Umkhonto Wesizwe. One being that they should be responsible, they should be accountable, they should be respectful, respect being the cornerstone of everything that of the behavior and the conduct of the members of Umkhonto Wesizwe. The factionalism that exists within our communities, within our regions and provinces, that one will be dealt with easily so, because we now have our legal instrument, which is the Constitution. That is the reason. Thank you.
Okay, so the DP head responses. Please, DP.
Member of the JSC.
Right, thank you very much, comrades. I'm going to respond to two questions. The first one is from a journalist. No, it's from Sunday Times journalist. The question was this: former members of MK are they entitled to appeal? The Constitution is now in place. It is a living document. Those former members of MK who decided to take the party to court, there are proceedings pending before courts of law. So those members can proceed as they wish. However, in respect of matters that are now arising, right, there are, for example, there are issues of discipline in other provinces, which I prefer not to mention for obvious reasons. We are using the Constitution as it is in place now. So going forward, we are going to invoke the provisions of the Constitution, and in the Constitution there is provision of the right to appeal in respect of those claims. Secondly, there was a question that was raised by Mr. Mbeje. He's looking at me, he's right here. And the question was, it related to celebrations that has already been covered. Or the question that I must deal with relates to traditional leaders. In Mkondo Wesizwe, we take traditional leaders very seriously. It doesn't matter where they come from, whether they come from Wavenda, or they are Sotho speaking, or they are Zulu speaking. We respect all traditional leaders. And as far as we're concerned, with specific reference to the question of land, land could never be the subject of private ownership in Africa, and certainly not in South Africa. So when we advocate the return of the land to its rightful owners, the rightful owners of the land are traditional owners. And so we take them seriously. They are the custodians of our land, and when Mkondo Wesizwe ascends to power, that is the position that we are going to articulate and enforce. Thank you.
Next round, let's see. Let's go, let's start questions. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's one there. No, from the Madume. You don't think it. Okay, let's go ahead.
I don't think this is
Let's go.
It's Heidi Jacobs from ENCA. I just want to ask if the MK Party could respond to the fact that the MPA has taken a decision not to prosecute anybody for the multi-million rand robbery at President Cyril Ramaphosa's house. And then just secondly, is the MK Party in a position to tell us what the next move is in terms of its position on the JSE? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Zoleka Kodashe from the SABC. I just want to piggyback on the last question from my colleague in relation to, we understand that there is a Part B application that will be heard on the 1st of November. Should you be unsuccessful in that application as well, what would be your next move? Assuming that you would be successful, just for the purposes of this argument, what would be the relief that you would seek? Because the JSC sitting has been protected by the order of the Gauteng High Court in Johannesburg. We understand that the leader of the MK Party was once a member of the ANC. In fact, he ceased to be a member until he was expelled. Can we get a comment in relation to that? Thank you.
Sanbonani Nkosinathi Shazi from Power FM News. I'm in Nombuzo Water. This past week, former ANC member and former Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Willis Mchunu, resigned from the African National Congress, citing that he has lost hope with organization or cites an GNU. So with Umkhonto Wesizwe Party set to establish provincial leadership across all 9 provinces, is Willis Mchunu, former ANC member, part of our discussions, and will he be joining Umkhonto Wesizwe? Ngiyabonga.
Good afternoon. My name is Yonela Ngokuvana from Sauma HD Radios. My question is, since Umkhonto Wesizwe won majority of votes in KwaZulu-Natal, does that mean the organization have any intentions to work in coalition government with other parties in the province and in national? And secondly, Babu Zuma, ngicela ukubuza, since the constitution of the party has been formed, what's your take on being the lifelong member of the ANC? And does that mean you can again campaign for the ANC, given a chance that the current president of the ANC steps down? Lastly, Umkhonto Wesizwe Party, how is he going to combat the issue of age restriction? Thank you. I mean, age of restriction in terms of employment.
Oh.
Just a follow-up on that question of two dual headquarters. I'm afraid the response was not enough because the question was in the context of your opponents often claiming that this is a regional party. So what this choice of Johannesburg makes perfect sense. But why KwaZulu-Natal? What is it close to? Durban? What is it close to? What is the rationale? And it will come up.
I think that was that. We didn't have a fifth question, eh? Okay. So the first question, the next Pala Pala.
Watch the space. Watch the space for this scene on Thursday. There is a question for Palapa on this issue of Palapa. Watch the space. The decision by the NPA not to prosecute the president is shocking, to say the least. Now, we all know something called tax evasion. Tax evasion occurs where you do not disclose your income. We all know that the money was hidden under the mattress. So clearly it was not disclosed. One would have thought there's a very simple answer of how to deal with the issue of Palapa. If, as we all know, money was not disclosed to the tax man and it was hidden under the mattress, it was not disclosed during the year of tax, during the year when tax was paid. It clearly means it was tax evasion. The president evaded tax. There is no two ways about it. He is guilty of tax evasion. The suggestion by NPA that there are no reasonable prospects of success, that it doesn't make sense to prosecute the president is nonsensical, to say the least. It does show, in my view, that these institutions are being controlled, they are being monitored, and they are being remote controlled by those who support the president. There is a simple English term: those institutions like NPA are captured. I would expect the president to be prosecuted in this regard because clearly money was not disclosed to the tax man. The president is guilty of tax evasion. I know other political parties are dealing with the issue of Palapala at a different level. We are going to deal with it at our own level, at our own terms, starting from next week on Thursday with question time in Parliament. Secondly, the issue of the Judicial Service Commission. I regard myself as a member of the JSC who was gagged. I was told in terms of the court's order that emanated from the Western Cape High Court that I could not attend the proceedings of the JSC. I suppose if I wanted to attend, I could sit and keep quiet. I didn't have time to go there and keep quiet. Secondly, there was an attempt by the legal team to stop the proceedings of the JSC. We lost. Now, we lost two successive cases. We know what happens in South Africa. When you lose, and you lose. It did not surprise us. I was a judge myself for 29 years. It did not surprise us when we lost because we know the judiciary is also captured. It is as simple as that. Now, there is no provision in terms of the law for an alternate member. I was the only member, I'm still the only member of the JSC. There is no provision for an alternate member of the JSC. We have to go back to the drawing board and get somebody else deployed to the JSC. So the decision to resign until finalization of the proceedings by the Constitutional Court was strategic in the sense that right now the party was not represented in the JSC. There is another sitting coming in April next year and another one coming in October next year. So if the party, we want to be represented as the MK on the JSC, the only way to ensure that we are represented until my legal battles are finalized, it is for me to withdraw with dignity, and then another member of the MK party will be deployed to the JSC until my problems are over. At which stage I will decide whether to go back, but I can assure you I will bounce back. Already you can see my absence from the JSC, the Deputy Judge President of the Land Claims Court is a judge called Susan Cowan. What happened to Oshoke Omobo? No Makoloba, no Mamala. Yapela. Thank you.
He runs back his seat.
Thanks for the time. I'm requested to answer on two. The former leader of the ANC was on a child resigning. We will normally not respond to people who resign from their own organization. We will only respond to those who join in controversies. But we read the letter of resignation, and it affirms our conclusion that the former liberation movement sold out when it joined the GNU and betrayed the electoral mandate of the people of KwaZulu-Natal. That's all we took from that letter, that even standards of the ANC are agreeing with us that the ANC has lost its historical mission, and after reading that letter we felt more pressure that we really need to build this organization as an alternative, so that when people of that caliber resign, they don't retire from politics, but they found a vehicle through which they can contribute in society. So we have not received any call, Comrade President, that the resignation of Comrade Wilson talks about MK. We've just read the letter, and we know, because we've got a second office in KZN, that he's probably not going to be the only one to resign with a high profile, because we know how people and general members of the ANC feel about the organization. So we don't know anything at this stage, and we'll wait to see if he's joining. IP might be recruiting him, we don't know, and others. If he's available for recruitment, we'll send the senior leadership to do that. The head office is not in Ghana. I didn't must explain. When you say KZN, don't mean Ghana. I know people think that Ghana has one tiny small town there, far from the other towns. It's going to be in Durban. And we know the label that we are a regional party. It can't be true. We're in a position in Mpumalanga. We're winning councillors and wards in Northwest. We're launching branches in Limpopo. But we're very realistic about our strength as well. KZN is a liberated zone.
Yes.
And it must be defended.
Yes.
Now we can't operate as if we don't know what we have and what we want. We're advancing national very strongly, but we're jealous in guarding our victories in the future. And the wisdom of the the National High Command was that for KZN to be protected as we move forward, because we're also preparing to govern there. That's another reality, that we are preparing to govern KwaZulu-Natal. Now the national leadership needs from time to time to touch base with the liberated zone to get inspiration as we advance to other areas in the country. So it's got nothing to do with the regional, it's got nothing to do with long past that label. We're a national organization that's got a primary head office in Johannesburg and a secondary head office in a liberated zone in South Africa, which is KwaZulu-Natal. So that the National High Command can from time to time meet in KwaZulu-Natal to give guidance on the organization there while we prepare to govern KwaZulu-Natal to showcase what we can do in other provinces and the next election to govern South Africa. That's what the rationale of KZN. It's not tailor-made for President Zuma. As I said, President Gandhi, he will still have to drive to a head office in Durban for meetings. That's what I think we should explain. Thanks.
No, thank you very much. The other question is that we have to emphatically clarify that the Constitution does not provide for an elective conference, and that is not a mistake. There's not going to be any elective conference that is going to be convened immediately. So those who join must not anticipate that they're going to master factionalism or constitutional factions or conference. There's no conference coming. And where do we account? We did say we're going to account to the Council of Traditional and Religious Leaders. We even have far much larger constituencies than a conference can ever give. So there is a base where we're going to account. We're not going to just operate as ourselves. There's somewhere where we're going to account to religious leaders and the churches and to traditional leaders who have got constituencies. So there's somewhere where we're going to account as the leadership of Mkhonto. So there's no confusion. Elective conference is not going to happen even at the sub-regional level, at the regional level. So this thing of gatekeeping as well does not help. So you might as well allow people to join in their numbers because it doesn't help with anything if you keep people outside. I understood the question about the restriction in terms of employment to referring to a practice in government and EPWP programs where they say those who are above 35 years old will not be employed. That does not apply to Mkhonto. Everyone else who needs and is looking for a job is going to be employed. That is why it is in the aims and objectives of the organization that we're going to create full employment. That is the intention of the organization. So everyone else who is looking for a job is capable of working. We're going to prioritize them for a job. Now, in terms of the dual membership, so section 513 of the Constitution, we're now mentioning the section, says that save for highly exceptional and strategic circumstances, and with the approval of divisional officials and high command, members of MKP are not allowed to be members of another political party, except organization informal alliances with the MKP. So, save for exceptional and strategic circumstances approved by officials. So the case and the situation of our president, the Commander General, president, is a strategic circumstance. It retains the dual membership and it's allowed as per the Constitution of Mkhonto. And you might, it's not just tailor-made for him. There are instances where we're going to allow members to be members of other political parties. To give an example now, there are councillors and leaders of political parties that are represented in some municipalities. name of their political party. If they leave that political party now, they are going to lose their membership as councillors. So we might agree that, okay, you can retain your membership of that organization and be a member of MK. But come 2026, when the circumstances change, you can now join fully as MP. So it's not just tailor-made for the president, it's to deal with these aspects where dual membership in some instances that are strategic are going to be prohibited. So there is nothing unconstitutional and nothing untoward about the membership of President Zuma. It's within the constitution of Congress. So that is what we did. Thank you very much.
I'm going to call upon our President, President Zuma, to address himself. Member of Joe Membership.
No, thank you very much, Chair, and leadership, and membership, and all of those who are here, and the ones who can't lead our school, and answer them in a lot of ways. No, I'm just commenting on this small little bit. Not big. Particularly because there is a question why this organization is not going to have conferences as all political parties are doing. Firstly, I have not understood conferences. What at the moment I understand and we agreed with our leaders and members is that we will meet, not conferences of elections, in what is called consultative conference, where we'll be consulting about our work and looking at whatever we've done, we're doing well, what are the shortcomings, etc., and then take decisions. What then is the next? So consultative, yes. As we always meet, we'll also love that our provinces come where we are all together to discuss where the organization is, what next we need to do to better our activities, etc., etc., etc. I have not seen these days, in particular, anything that is better in our conferences that we've been having. And we've asked the question, what is it that is more important for us to have conferences, what are they called? Elective conference. Why must we keep on electing? We call it democracy. But I'm sure all of you know that today, those who win are those who have the money. Is that consulted? Is that democracy? Do you know that there are presidents who are president today because they had all the money, but they can't do the presidency or do anything that is presidential? No, that's true. It has become a business, not even a proper business, corrupt business, where people take money, pay to elect so and so. One of the things that those who are behind, those who have money, have done. If you get elected, they think you are not doing what they want. They then give money to your comrades without you knowing, that pay people to be able to have so and so become a leader. So we have leaders who are not the leaders of the membership, but the leaders that have been elected by bought people with money. I don't think there is any democracy that we are talking about. And we know it because we have suffered. Maybe many of you have not. But some of us have, as political parties. There are people who are leading who are not supposed, who are not meant to be leaders. They don't even know how to lead. But because of the money, they are. I just wanted to clarify this. You should know. It's a well thought out decision. We want, in the first instance, I don't understand why, if there is a leader who is leading very well, doing everything, he must be taken out. You bring somebody who is directed from somewhere, even outside of the country. I don't think we should be so blind to see that. It's a simple thing. Agreed? Journalist agreed? Thank you very much.
Thank you, President. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, that is the last speech. That's our closing. And we'd like to thank you for being present today and drive safely home. Thanks.